and on high schoolers. And he's great. Scott Russell, everybody. Woo!
Thank you, Liza. I'm real glad that we have Element Cafe, because if we didn't, I would be out a lot of change. Now, every Sunday morning, I'd have to grab my loose change when she was in my social. Let me open this with a word of prayer. Dear God, I thank you for the opportunity to stand here. Please use me as a vessel. Amen.
Amen.
All right, so let me tell you a little bit about myself. Liza told you some. She said I had 5 kids. Now, we don't have 5 kids together. So Laura and I have been married about 2 years. So between the two of us, we have 5, not just 5 kids, but 5 teenagers. So let that sink in a little bit. Yes, sir. So 5 teenagers. I grew up in Birmingham, was the oldest of 4, went to Mount Brook High School, went to Auburn, where are you going today, by the way? I've been a banker for a really, really long time, but y'all, here's the thing, I hate math. Go figure. In the summer, I have a weekend job. I'm the chaplain at Camp Laney. That's my favorite job. Hope I don't get fired for saying that. But so 5 teenagers. So at our house, we got a lot of kids. We have a dog. We have a cat that is very, very annoying. It gets better. Cameron, we have 5 guitars. 6 guitars. I'm not finished. A mandolin, a ukulele, and a piano. And I can't play any of them. So, we spend a lot of time hiding in our room where, no lie, look at these screens. We have a whiteboard in our room that's bigger than these screens. True story. I know that's weird. What's 50-year-old man has a whiteboard in his room? So my faith story is still being written. It has been and still is a journey. Like many of you, I grew up going to church. And when I was little, my family and I belonged to this real small church in downtown Birmingham. All my extended family went there. So we were there for a while. Always attended Sunday school. And I'm sure none of you boys were like this, but I was more focused on making paper airplanes with our lessons, eating the snacks. And y'all, this was the days before goldfish were invented. And when it came time for those projects where we would glue stuff, we tried to glue girls' shoes to the floor and glue stuff to the table. So that was my early Sunday school experience. We moved to a local Methodist church when I was in 4th grade. So at home, my mom really taught us the importance of spending time with God each day, even if it was just for a few minutes. My dad modeled for me the way Christian love is supposed to look. And I didn't really realize that when I was little. It didn't matter how different people were from him. He embodied Jesus' command to love others. Like all of you, I had a fabulous youth group experience. Lots of service opportunities, mission trips, great weekends of retreats and all kind of fun stuff. And it was in youth group that I remember different adults really beginning to impact my life and my faith journey. Y'all may have heard of a guy named Adam Hamilton. He's a senior pastor at the largest Methodist church in the country, somebody I have a lot of respect for. And he says, and I love this, when God wants things done, He sends people. Very true in my life. The older I get, the more I realize the importance of people and the relationships I have with them. So a big part of my faith story is about the way that God has worked and continues to work with people and through people in my life. I had teachers, youth leaders when I was growing up. Now, I can't remember exactly what they told me, but I remember what they showed me. They showed me love. They showed that love by showing up for me and being available for me. They made me feel valued and important. Like I mattered not just to them, but also to God. I remember one couple in particular who worked with our youth group. And their home was a safe haven for a lot of us. So many times, I shouldn't admit this, but many times after I had a big blow up with my mom, that's where I'd go. And y'all, this is in the days before cell phones, so I couldn't text them, hey, I'm on the way. I would just show up on their doorstep. And every single time they brought me in, sometimes they fed me. They let me sit on their couch to complain, to gripe, whatever it was. And they loved me through all that. I knew I was always welcome and safe there. So it's because of people like Tom and Jane and other adults who invested in me that I started working with youth a long time ago. I wanted to show up for young people just like other adults had done for me. Because that's what God's people do, y'all. They show up for each other. But a funny thing happened to me as I started working more and more with students. I realized, and I still do, that when I show up, whether it's teaching a Sunday school class, leading a small group, or even driving a church bus, which I'm really weird and I love to do, I'm the one who benefits. I'm the one who grows in my faith. Working with young people is how I feel connected to God. It's how I've really continued to grow in my faith as an adult. Now, here's the thing. There is nothing that qualifies me to do this except that I'm a child of God. One who's been well loved by a lot of people and feels called to show up and love others, even if it gets me out of my comfort zone. So there are times when my showing up is uncomfortable, it's inconvenient, sometimes it's messy, and my opportunities don't all look alike. They can be different. Last month it looked like sitting across a dinner table in Tuscaloosa with a former student, a college student in Alabama, who was severely depressed. And just 2 days before, he told his mom he was having suicidal thoughts. Earlier this year, it looked like being with a former student who doesn't have a father, whose mother had just died unexpectedly. And literally, y'all, literally standing with this young lady for more than an hour at her mom's visitation, because she didn't have anybody else. But, okay, let's be honest. Y'all, there's so many times I get it wrong. All the time. Times when I'm too tired, or too busy, or too selfish, or just too scared to say yes to God's push for me to love somebody or show up for somebody. That's usually when one of God's people shows up for me to give me the jolt that I need. And y'all, a lot of times, it's my wife, and all she has to do is look at me and say, Scott, you have to. God keeps demonstrating for me over and over when I trust Him, when I listen to Him, when I am faithful to Him, that I grow in my faith. Y'all, Jesus calls us to love people. All people. No judgment, just love. That's what I see as my job as a follower of Jesus. So let me tell you about my Trinity story. We joined Trinity in May of last year, 2018. We've been visiting for 6 months. We got to a point where we were conflicted. We loved worship. We attend traditional. We were really being fed by the music and the preaching and everything. But we wanted to work with students. So what did we do? We scheduled a meeting with Pastor Brian. We sat down with Brian, told him our story. Brian, we're so conflicted. We want to work with students. We don't know what to do. We've been plugged into this other church. We grew up there. And he says, y'all, you don't have to be a member to work with youth. Go talk to Robert. We were like, okay. So the next day we talked to Robert. Robert was like, y'all, you don't have to be a member here to work at Element. We were like, oh, we don't? Okay, we'll get back with you. So I remember very vividly, like it was last week, we walked out in that side parking lot, and Laura looks at me like she always does, and she said, Scott, we have to. We totally have to join. So the next week we joined. But y'all, it made no sense for us to join Trinity. We grew up somewhere else. My mother, her parents are still there. Our kids are still members there. We left them. I should have said that. But the thing is, we said yes to God calling us out of our comfort zone. So last fall we started teaching, as Liza said, teaching high school class. Love it. Y'all been so nice and kind and welcoming to us. We started getting to know some students. We still didn't know many adults. And so I will admit to you, first time I'm admitting this publicly, that there have been a lot of times since last May that I have wondered, was it a mistake to leave my old church? Do I even belong here? As I said, we love traditional worship. We enjoy our Sunday school class. But besides the ministers and the staff and the few students we know, I didn't feel real welcome. I didn't feel like I belonged here. So I was looking forward to Discovery, very excited about it. Hoping not only to meet some students, adults, students, but also to spend that time focusing on Jesus. So Discovery Week gets here. And I'm not real excited. Laura had signed up, and at the last minute she told Robert she couldn't do it for a lot of reasons that were valid. But I still wanted her here. I had a terrible work week. Remember, I'm a banker and I hate math. That might have had something to do with it. Very stressful work week. I was exhausted for a lot of reasons that you don't care about. Now, here's a bad thing. You don't start a retreat when you're exhausted, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But I showed up. Slowing down and focusing on Jesus and being here was what I needed. And it was great. All of the worship services were very meaningful to me. I remember on Saturday morning worship where the band was singing the song, Who You Say I Am. As I listened to some of the words that Colby was singing, I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. I sat there and I thought, yep, even a 52-year-old like me sometimes needs a reminder that I too am a child of God. Rise Against Hunger was awesome. There's something about service that's just really neat. Caroline and I enjoyed making fun of her dad in that was not a pretty sight. But the service component of Discovery was great. So I met lots of people. Let me back up. The most impactful part of Discovery to me, those of you who raised your hand a little while ago who were there, was your words. The comments in my D group made me think. The senior speakers, and there are a few of you right there, were fantastic. The ways that each of you shared and through your stories challenged me and inspired me. And yes, Jormer made me cry. I already told him that. So my first Discovery experience here at Trinity was awesome. Met lots of people, as I said, students, adults. Discovery 2019 is now an important part of my faith journey. At Discovery, I felt welcome. I felt like I belonged. Watching all of you in action and listening to your words, and just being around lots of young people energized me. You people, every one of you, give me hope in what sometimes feels like a cruel and divisive and confusing world. After Discovery Weekend, I feel much more a part of this church. And for that, I am very, very grateful. I'm real glad I showed up. I'm in.
Amen.